up against some challenges. Yeah.
Gentlemen, if we can call this meeting of the Beaufort County Legislative Delegation to order. I'm going to call on my colleague, Representative Michael Rivers, for an invocation, and then we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody will stand for me, please. Representative Rivers.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for another opportunity, realizing that every day is a gift. Thank you that we'll be doing the business of this county, decent and in order, remembering what we work for. In the name and nature of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you all being here this morning. I know this is not an easy task, especially when we have to go back to Columbia on Monday for consideration of the budget conference report reconciled between the House and the Senate. So with that in mind, we tried to prepare a tight agenda this morning. You will note it does not include an open comment opportunity for folks to address us. We do intend to come back and have schedule another meeting later this summer, but had a number of matters that had lingered because of COVID that needed to be dealt with this morning, and a tight window of time with a limited number of folks that were able to physically be present here this morning. In addition to the majority of the delegation being here physically in person, we also have a larger majority, including Senator Campson and Representative Bradley, both of who have given proxies to Senator Davis and Representative Erickson, respectively. I was elected chairman of the delegation earlier this year, and this is the first meeting that we have had here at home. The first order of business that we have is the approval of our minutes of February the 17th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thanks. Under Mason's rules, no second is required. All those in favor of approval, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. Chairman's report. I think I've just provided the report about the recent changes in our normal rotation cycle that were made at a February meeting that we held in Columbia at the same time that our requirement to reappoint a master in equity was accomplished. So with that, we're going to move next to Mr. Wedler, Carl Wedler, to receive a report from our Veterans Affairs Office. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Newton and Beaufort delegation members. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this morning. I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of the office and where it is currently going right now. There is a report that the state puts out that says that we have 25,000 disabled veterans in Beaufort County that are bringing well in over $190 million a year into the county because of the tax-free disability payments that they receive. However, that number, in my estimation, is extremely low. And the reason I say that is that because that number does not take into account the dependents of the veterans who are disabled. So if we look at that number, now we're approaching close to 60,000 in Beaufort County, and they keep coming. There are more and more veterans in Sun City than there are in Colleton County. So for my staff to be able to assist them and help them, it is a monumental task. And we do the best that we can. I have been trying to get an additional FTE for the office so that I would have 3 veterans counselors plus myself and an admin person. But just due to all kinds of circumstances, that has not occurred at this point. The other issue is that one of my veterans counselors retired or resigned, And part of the reason was that I believe he was having trouble readjusting back to an office environment because, of course, all of last year, or majority of last year, we were working out of our homes, quite successfully, I might add. Last year, 2020, this is what 3 of us did. We filed 895 claims for new claims for veterans. And we had 3,212 contacts to the office. Now, contacts are not claims that are filed, but it's everything else. It's referrals, it's phone conversations, it's people walking in asking for forms. So over the course of the year, these are the types of numbers that we're seeing. And I really believe that it's going to increase. So I am looking for a new veterans counselor. And in my estimation, it won't be easy. Because in order for a veterans counselor to be effective, it's going to take close to a year to get them up to speed. Some of the criteria that we look for when we interview for a new person, and I'll give you a few of the things that give you a few ideas of what we look for. Well, first of all, probably one of the most important qualities is the ability to listen carefully. If you don't listen carefully, you're going to spend a lot more time than you need to with that veteran. Secondly, its ability to get along with all types of people. We have veterans who have serious PTSD issues, and they can be volatile, not in a harmful way, but they can be, in the course of a dialogue, something said could trigger them, so we need to know how to be able to work with them. We also need to understand the federal regulations that control the Veterans Affairs area, and that is very complex. And so we have an accreditation process that must be performed. We have conferences twice a year to keep up to speed on what is changing in the VA, and it's changing all the time. And we see the veterans as best we can. Sometimes we have to schedule them out a little bit farther than they would like, not because we want to, but it's just due to the volume that we deal with. The person that I'm looking for needs to be a veteran. And the reason they need to be a veteran, in my opinion, is that they have common ground with the people that walk into our office. And that kind of breaks some of the barriers right up front. Secondly, that person needs to be educated, be able to be trained to handle the level of work that we're doing. So I'm looking for somebody with at least a bachelor's degree, preferably a master's. And they have to have all of the communication skills to be able to not only talk to the veterans, but to do briefings to organizations, to go out into the county and address service organizations. If they're requested to come to them and give them a briefing on what's been going on in the VA. I do most of them, but sometimes my guys go out in my place. And it's been stressful, but I think we're steady. We're not optimum, but we're steady right now. We have in place, we're looking for a person right now. We've talked to the transition teams at the air station, at Parris Island, and the Naval Hospital. We're going to be putting an advertisement on the Beaufort County website July 1st. And why July 1st? Because I understand that the additional unemployment payment benefits are going to be finished at that point in time. So we're doing that. I'm talking to my sister counties around here to assist while we're still in this transition stage. I've talked to Charleston County to see if one of their veterans counselors can assist our office by taking some of the workload, picking up some of the workload. And the beauty of that is that the state provided us with some software that allows us to talk and work with anybody over the phone. And if they have a smartphone, we can fill out the paperwork in our office or our home, send it to them, they can sign it, and it comes back to us, and then we can upload it to the VA. Charleston. I'm sorry? Disposition pay? They just had, the county just had a salary survey, and the max for that position, well, it starts at 35, that's the min, and the max is 55. So for somebody that has no experience or no background but appears to be able to handle the situation, we would probably have to start them at the minimum, 35. I lost a good prospect in May, simply because what I could offer him was $20,000 less than what he got from a private company. So that's the challenge. We're moving towards filling that position. I'm hopefully using one of the other counties to be able to assist, via VetPro, and we'll just do the best that we can possibly do.
Carl, let me ask you a question. I appreciate the challenge that goes along with trying to fill any position today. So you asked for another FTE from county council. County council, I'm guessing, did not approve that in the budget request.
No, I started with the budget director, human resource, budget director, finance. I did not present to county council.
I understand, but you asked the county for it, and it was not included in the budget that was approved by the county this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, how many, you today have how many FTEs for veterans counselors?
For my office.
Yeah, that's
two.
The only office that does anything with veterans. Okay. So you've got, you have two.
I've got an admin person.
Wait a minute, no, don't get ahead of me. You have two positions that are filled today?
Yes.
Both of them are filled?
Both of them are what?
Are filled.
Yes.
Do you have bodies in those FTEs today that are working full-time for the benefit of veterans in Beaufort County?
That's correct.
Okay. So I thought there was some understanding that either somebody had left or they weren't there anymore or they had resigned. So you already filled that position, or?
No, I had a resignation.
Uh-huh.
The office is tasked for 4 people.
Okay.
An admin person and three veterans counselors. I run a dual role. I'm a veterans counselor plus running the office. So a lot of my time, the majority of my time, is working with the veterans, and then I do the county business when I'm requested for information.
Okay, so the 4 people that are authorized in the county budget today include you for one, 2 others, and an admin person.
Yes.
And all of those positions are filled at this moment?
No.
Okay. How many open vacancies do you have? 1. Okay. In addition, you've asked county council for another FTE that was not included in this year's budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you go back and talk to the budget director, the county administrator? I mean, I don't think it's any secret to anybody that veterans in Beaufort County are perhaps some of the greatest human capital that we have.
These
and
people are
appropriately taking care of them. We all ought to be ashamed if we can't, given what they've done for this country, figure out how to do it correctly. And quite frankly, the concerns that that have been reported back to the delegation about how our office is running there is troubling to all of us. And so, you know, if you need additional staff resources, shame on us for not going to county council and asking, but shame on you for not coming to us to help coordinate that through county council to be able to do it. You know, we're looking at a request that county council has right here in a few minutes for $100,000+ for tennis courts that they're asking us to fund. I'm certain the county shares the same belief in the importance of our veterans in Beaufort County, and I know Mr. Rodman's sitting there, and hopefully that Mr. Rodman is listening to that and appreciates the fact that veterans counselors are needed. But I am, you know, I do understand that the challenge of trying to hire somebody at the low end of the scale is difficult in this environment and where it is. Do you have discretion in deciding what end of the scale they're on, or is that decided by you through some layer at the county?
Are you talking about their pay, sir?
Yeah, you told me that the minimum is 35, the maximum is 55. Who decides where they fall within that range?
I would put the recommendation to Human Resources. I mean, if the person has some of the qualities that we need, I would offer them above 35. But my other veterans counselor right now is only making 41. Now, compared to my sister county in Charleston, we're still way below. They offer to a brand new person, brand new FTE, and this is old data, I think it's higher now, starting $50,000. We're 35, and we just went through a survey.
Right. No, I understand that, and Carl, Mr. Wedler, you know, my view as the director of the office, your budget request ought to be including requests for these staff people to have salary increases. And, you know, I mean, this is one of those offices that's not directly run by the county, so it often gets viewed as being disconnected from the county, so it perhaps doesn't get the attention from the county and the county budget folks that they otherwise are paying to their own departments. But you're the advocate for the people that work in the office, and you're our tip of the spear in helping take care of the veterans in Beaufort County. So collectively, we got to do a better job making sure that we've got the right people in there, the good people are in there, and that we're appropriately serving our veterans. Mr. Rivers?
Yes, sir. What is your relationship with Secretary Grimsley?
Very good.
The reason I'm asking because I know we're trying to centralize and make things systematic throughout the state. So I was wondering, could you not get some information, some help from him in trying to alleviate your concerns because of your relationship with him?
He's aware of the situation. He's aware of the situation, and I support his position of trying to bring all of the CVAOs under his domain, just for consistency's sake. But there are some people that have my position that, you know, that don't agree with that position. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. And how long has it been now that you've been short-staffed? How many months has it been?
April 1st.
April 1st. I guess one of my concerns as veterans, most veterans know how to listen and get along with people. I mean, that's part of the requirement for being a veteran. So it just seems like there would be somebody out there who, you know, like maybe it's better advertising or marketing, COVID, whatever it is. But the need, I think there is a supply and demand for what we need in Beaufort with veterans. I'm a veteran myself.
Well, we're looking, Mr. Rivers, and I'm hoping. Well, give you an idea. I've got an accredited veterans counselor right now. The only fly in the ointment is that he lives in Fort Mills, South Carolina. So, is he going to move? Is he going to sell his house, move his family and 2 kids to come down to an area that is burgeoning, is expensive, and the best I could maybe offer him is what parallel to what I'm offering my current veteran counselor, $41,000. In Beaufort County, you're scraping by, in my opinion, on $41,000.
Well, one thing that I'm encouraged about with veterans is usually if there's a problem, they'll find a solution. So I think we'll get this worked out. We must get it worked out, and we up here will help you do whatever we can, but there's some things that you have to do as well.
Well, I've always, even at my last appointment, I've always invited all of you, if you have a veteran that has an issue, to contact me directly. And I've had Mr. Herbsman, and I've had Ms. Erickson, and I've actually had Mr. Weston contact me. And they go to the top of the list when that happens. But there's only been 3 since 2018. So if I only get 3 responses and 2 from my representatives in a couple years, I think everything's going along pretty well. I'm not getting any feedback that says we got an issue here.
No, my concern was you were saying that you were short-staffed for some time. And I think you're the one that kind of coordinates that. So if you can let us know how we can help you with the staff situation once you put your budget in through the proper channels and everything, then we can support your request. But until your request is made, it's hard to support it.
Well, I would appreciate your support.
Yes, sir.
Very much. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Weller, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for the work in the office. I spoke with you earlier and said the only concerns that I had gotten was the timeliness of getting some of the services and the answers, and I believe you've answered that with the difficulty of the caseload that you're carrying in your office. I'm very heartened to hear that you've reached out and cast your net wider for staffing. Do you have the opportunity in that pay scale, you as the director, to bump up the person who's there now and realign what your starting salary might be to make it? I mean, I'm having to deal with the Department of Motor Vehicles right now, and last year they came to me with a very similar situation, and they've put in place the ability to move within scales a little bit better to help us keep those frontline service employees. Can you do that within that 35 to 55? Is it so you can actually bump that, and the county HR will take your recommendation and do that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, it's possible for you to move some salaries around if you need to be able to bring in some folks who might have the skills that you're looking for that I understand are pretty specific for the contacts that you need.
Well, yes, I can do that. I have the flexibility to make that. Now, I've just done a performance review on my one veterans counselor right now. I don't know, well, we've got a salary adjustment, so I'm assuming that's going to take the place of any type of merit increase. And I've also been told, and Mr. Rodman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for 2021, there's a hiring freeze. Is that correct, sir?
The county did freeze.
So.
Will that affect?
I mean, he got to come to the mic, or it's not on television. If you want to ask Mr. Rodman a
Mr.
question, let's let Mr. Rodman
I'm sorry.
come to the podium. That's all right.
Well, I'll just let us find out, or can you please find out if that will affect you in a hiring of a position that's ongoing now?
No, I'm replacing a person, so that will not affect that.
Okay, so it's just this new FTE position that you'd like to have.
Yes.
Could not be put in place, but not the one that you're currently replacing.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. All right.
Just point of clarification, because I maybe didn't hear the answer the same way you just answered Representative Erickson. This person in York that you're interested in, or any other person, you do have the flexibility to offer them a salary as long as it's within that range, or you do not?
I can't just bring somebody in at like what the midpoint of that range would be.
Well, how do you have any idea how much you're gonna offer them then? I mean, you just say, we'd like to offer you a job, but I have no idea what we're gonna pay you?
No. You know, my offer, I mean, I'd have to go back to HR, but I'd offer them the same that I'm paying my experienced veteran counselor right now, $41,000.
Because that's what the county tells you is the max they'll let you, I'm just trying to
No.
understand how that is, because
No.
it's frustrating that government bureaucracy is tying the hands of trying to get appropriate people in place to serve the veterans of Beaufort County. And if you hear my frustration, it's there. Just
Mine
because
too,
I hadn't
sir.
called your office and complained, I wasn't worrying about any particular single individual. I'm worried about whether the number's 25,000 or 45,000 people that are here in Beaufort County that are veterans and deserve a well-staffed, well-run, and appropriately managed office to serve them. And whether it's our role or county council's role or your role, we need to make sure that that's being done to the greatest extent that we possibly can. One last question, then Mr. Robin may be able to answer unless my colleagues have something. Carl, there's a written report that your office puts out. When is the last time that report's been put out?
Now, this has to go to the state twice a year.
Right, so when's the last time? I'm just trying to, it has great information in it about the total number of people that have been served, the total number of people that have been processed through your office.
Right, here's 7/31/2020 through 12/31/2020. The number of claims processed was 435. Interviews, consultation, and contacts, 1,000. Special inquiries, 55. Education and training inquiries, 9. And then 470 for other being people coming into the office to ask a question, get a form, get an income verification, things along those lines.
So that was July to December of last year?
That's correct.
Okay. And so when is the next time you file a report with the state?
June. Wait,
This month for January to,
they haven't asked for a June report yet because the month isn't completed, but I'm sure in July, you know, we'll have something. We'll have a request from General Grimsley's office to provide a semi-annual report.
you know, it'd probably be helpful to do some analysis as to the number of people that are processed through the office in Beaufort County relative to some of our peers in other counties, to take that information to then support the request for an additional FTE, if that's warranted based on those numbers, but also as it relates to the salary adjustment. You know, if you only got you and one person that are there, one counselor today, you know, probably we need to make sure that we're in the right location on that, within that range, to be able to do that. So understand that the delegation's willing to help you interface with county council to get the appropriate tools that your office needs. You know, as you know, your appointment, the director's position is up and open at this time. That's not on this agenda today. We're not including that at this point in time. Obviously, you continue to serve as the director until we've done something. Typically, we go through interview processes and all that kind of stuff, which you know, isn't on our schedule today, and we don't intend to do so. But I do think we need to all double down our efforts in making sure that the Veterans Affairs Office is running as effectively and efficiently as possible. Anybody else got a question for Mr. Weather? Carl, thank you very much for what you do. It's not an easy job, and I understand that, and I appreciate it. Mr. Robin, you want to come up and answer some questions that Ms. Erickson or others may have about the funding that you all are interested in making sure that that office is appropriately?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eric Greenway is relative to the operating staff has froze the total, but there's still people being hired in other agencies, public safety and things like that. However, nothing would give me greater pleasure than having the opportunity to receive something from the delegation that says we need to fix this problem. And as a veteran and as an Army brat, it would be my pleasure to help shepherd that through the council and figure out what it is that we can do to help you in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Rodman. When we review the county council's request for $175,000 in a few minutes to redo a park facility that otherwise would be paid for with, by the county, perhaps we can include a footnote in that letter that says, we're delighted to help you address this, and now we expect that our citizens to be taken care of in the Veterans Affairs area as well.
And they would probably pay us even more attention than we do to the delegation.
I think maybe the motion will cover that. Thank you, Mr. Robin. Always a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is the Park and Rec Development Funds. As indicated, there are two requests. One's the Bladen Street Tennis Court request by the Beaufort County Council. The second is the Southside Park Amenities, City of Beaufort. I don't know that we have any historic information in front of us with regard to historic beyond the last couple of years grants and where they were allocated. Ms. Maxey, do you have any information about the 2018 and 2019 funding, where those funds were allocated?
I don't have access to it at the moment.
Anybody have any recall?
If I remember, the last was the county got 50,000, I believe, for the Green Street swimming pool improvement, and we got 36, I believe 36 or 38,000 for Washington Street. That was, I believe, 2019. There was nothing left.
Yeah, so that would have been in 19. That would have been 78,000, and then in 18 it was 76,000. It just you know, obviously in allocating these funds, our responsibility is to look out for the entire county. And so when we continue to see requests that are Beaufort County, Beaufort City, you know, it begs the question, what about Port Royal? What about the town of Hilton Head? What about the town of Bluffton? You know, certainly we can't force them to make a request, and they've got the same opportunities to understand that there are requests and grant opportunities out there. You know, our concern is to make sure that we're treating everybody in the county fairly, because these monies didn't just come from one particular place.
In 18 Bluffton, I believe Bluffton got 50 or 75,000.
Right, and of course, obviously, the county council's request is, even though these particular facilities are located in one place in the county, it ultimately benefits, their jurisdiction is countywide. So, thank you very much. Anybody have any, the two requests that are in front of us are $175,760.24. That's county council's request with regard to the tennis courts. It's a pretty substantial project. That this funding doesn't cover the whole project, but is certainly perhaps a contribution toward that. And then the City of Beaufort's request is for Southside Park amenities, and that, I'm sorry, Mr. Okersman, the request by Beaufort County Council was $175,760.24, which is the full amount of the 2020 and 2021 funding. And the City of Beaufort has a $50,000 request for Southside Park improvements. It looks like they're looking for 20% from the city, 80% from PARD, and for some park benches, trash cans, and swing sets at the park. Anybody got any questions, thoughts, comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
The new monies will be allocated July 1st. So there'll be another set of funding that rolls around on July 1. The county's request is the full total of the request now. What I'd like to suggest to our delegation is that we fund the county's request at $125,760.24, and fund the city's request, the $50,000. And then we need to reach out specifically to those areas that have not received funding in this particular round for those monies that are coming for us in July, and particularly ask if they have need in those directions for our next delegation awards.
All right, yes, sir, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
I would tend to agree with Ms. Erickson. I think it's incumbent upon the municipalities and to request it. I mean, you can't stand up here and ask them to request it, so it's,
No, I agree.
you don't ask, you don't get.
The total, does anybody know what the total amount of the county project is?
Yes, sir. It was in here. Sorry, I didn't write that one down. I added it up. It's somewhere in the $400,000 range.
So their request is for 30% of, or, I mean, well, maybe 40%. The city's request is for 80% of the
Yes.
project. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I certainly think that that's appropriate based on the requests that have been made in front of us. Do think that we need to encourage both the town of Bluffton, well, all three, Port Royal, Bluffton, and Hilton Head to be aware of these grants and to pursue the same. I would note that I would like to see in the transmittal letter, assuming that we all vote and approve this, the kind of footnote that Mr. Rodman suggested, that in making this grant request to the county, we're reminding them that we need help in the Veterans Affairs Office and would like to receive some feedback and an appropriate attention to serve the veterans in Beaufort County post haste.
Pretty sure we can include that.
Mr. Rodman, we're not telling anything, we're kindly asking that it be done. But conditioning that ask on $125,000. So, all right, any further discussion? I think Ms. Erickson did. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All good there. Next is DNR Water Rec Game and Fish Fund request. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
I'm well. Good to have you with us today.
Yes, sir. So our request this year, we're requesting $70,500 for a new patrol vessel for officers here in Beaufort County. We had one that was involved in an incident, and we had to turn it in. We were able to salvage the motor off of it and put it on another one of our patrol vessels, but we're getting a few more officers down here, and we got 2 right now in training that are coming to the county, and then hopefully we're gonna get things about next year's budget, and I'm gonna be fighting for getting some even more officers down here. So what we're doing is trying to get them in better work platforms, more reliable work platforms that we know is gonna work when they go out, and that'll include a boat motor, trailer, and electronics package for that vessel. The next request from law enforcement, I'm the hub chairman for the whole, I guess, region 4 of the coastal section, so I do MRD, our marine resources request as well, but the next law enforcement request is a 4-wheeler. The 4-wheeler we had was stolen in 2015, and we still haven't replaced it. We had it in the compound, and somebody broke in, took that, several other items from the county as well, and we just hadn't replaced it. Those are critical. We don't use them on the beach as much as we used to, obviously, because the salt water does tear them up. So what we found they're particularly helpful in is search and rescues in our wooded areas. During a storm, any kind of flooding or hurricane, they help us move officers in and out of the area. And we only have 1 in Beaufort County right now. So I usually try to station stuff 1 north end, 1 south end. So that's an $8,000 request out of the game and fish. The Marine Resources section is requesting an oyster shell to restock Skull Creek and Wallace Creek shellfish grounds. What happens over the years, our state shellfish grounds, we have a ton of them down here in Beaufort. you know, when you take the oyster, you're taking the whole resource. It's not like taking the fish is just gone. When you take an oyster, the whole habitat and everything's gone. So what we do is we go and plant the seed. It's usually spat from older oysters or whatever, and so it replants these shellfish grounds, these state shellfish grounds, which are open to public recreational harvest. And so we're behind on this and trying to get some more spat put out in those areas to allow for more public recreational harvest. Those are two pretty good areas for recreational harvest because they're not far from boat landings. They're easily accessible as well. So that's where we're at. And we're just trying to catch up. We're behind the 8 ball, and we're trying to catch up coastwide, but particularly down here as well. This is a every year project. You know, we're redoing these beds up and down the coast, but and different areas. You know, next year they would probably ask for more in Beaufort County for Broad River or wherever else. And then the last request is $500 for a mono recycling station, which is, we put these at boat landings, so if a fisherman's out fishing that day, has a free spool, line gets taken, has to cut his lines, when they get back in, instead of throwing that stuff in the water, we give them a place to throw it, you know, on the bank, like a recycling type station. And just in my digging, obviously I do some homework, you know, before coming to y'all, but these, the folks that are requesting the mono, they pretty much live off of grant money or any kind of additional funding. They really have very little funds. So I know $500 is a minimal amount, but they really do rely on that funding just in order to buy the materials, to create the boxes, I guess, or the recycling station. So that's that request there.
Captain Paul?
Yes, sir.
Next year, you know, after the DeFusky fiasco, you guys be asking for a destroyer?
So was that?
Will you be asking for a destroyer?
Certainly not a helicopter.
Yeah, I heard about that. I was not down here that weekend, but and you know we've identified a few little areas that we can improve on. Some communication stuff with us and the Coast Guard. We were right there, but the Coast Guard didn't have a way to get like immediately in contact with us, and
Well, I'll tell
to
you,
hopefully prevent that.
Your presence over here in the May River has been excellent.
Yes, sir.
And the,
Yes, sir.
you know, some of the things that we've worked on together has been, I think,
Absolutely,
really-
absolutely.
So and I know you've probably seen more boats out there this year than we've ever seen in
It's
our lives.
unbelievable.
I mean,
It's unbelievable.
So-
You know, you riding around local boat dealers here, I mean, their inventory is completely gone. It's
Empty,
just,
yeah.
everybody has a boat
Yeah.
now. And, you know, I'll rely on, you know, not only working with you, but Chairman Newton and everybody on the delegation, you know, pointing out these hot spots. Yeah, we pretty much got our finger on the pulse of what's going on in our counties, but, you know, we're working with a lot of local law enforcement, a lot of local leaders, and, you know, trying to identify these problem areas. And we're trying to do it ahead of time. You know, we started in March doing some of our increased patrols in some of our high activity areas, and hopefully let them know that we're going to be out, you know. So.
yeah, and you know, as you know, when we get complaints, I mean, very few people compliment, but you all have gotten a lot of compliments this year on
Good to
your
hear.
presence in the.
We'll take them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Captain, a question, if you will, the $500 for the recycling station, is that for one boat landing?
It would be for one boat landing, I believe, sir. I can double check that and let you know, but I do believe that's one because the same section and individual he's requested pretty much about 7 of them up and down the coast. Even you know, for Berkeley County, which I'm the hub chairman for too. You know, he's requested like one for each county, and so I'm assuming it may be more than one actual, because I think
Look, the labor to
Right.
erect a pole and put the PVC, I mean, the materials aren't that much, but the labor of having somebody go out there and dig a hole and secure it and all that's probably.
And, no, he does it. He does all that. So I think we can say that. And you're right. You're exactly right. It's just a pole with like a 6-inch PVC pipe. You just shove the line down in, and then he goes and so it probably would be more than one.
I mean, I guess my concern, and we hadn't obviously voted on this and approved it, is that this is something that I've heard from fishermen, and obviously living here and observing and growing up in and around the landing and observing that there's a lot of this stuff that just gets thrown by the. We ought to encourage this to be done at every one of our boat landings.
Right.
Not target one boat landing. So perhaps a communication back to these folks that have asked for this that says there's still money in Beaufort County in this water rec fund. They are, assuming my colleagues agree that this is a good activity, we ought to encourage them to come ask for money to put it in
Absolutely.
every boat landing that we have.
I can certainly relay that message, and I can get you some stats too on how many landings have it, you know, in this county and you know, throughout, and how much one costs or whatnot, because, you know, we put up signs, informational signs a lot of time, you know, obviously during the beginning of COVID, we were hitting every landing in the county, so it's something that we can certainly assist our marine resources side with, but I'll get that message to them today, and then I'll get back to you as well.
Okay, I mean, you know, we've obviously processed the request as fast as y'all make it to us at the upcoming delegation meeting. Last question, just out of curiosity, is the 4-track, why'd y'all ask for that from Game and Fish Funds instead of Water Rec? I mean, there's still a balance left in Water Rec. It's just curiosity.
Right. Well, usually we consider, you know, 4-wheelers, Game and Fish Fund, just our upland, our inland type stuff. So Water Rec, we try to do for our fishing. You know, we actually put our fishing radios in Game and Fish too. And on that, you know, we didn't use the funds last year, obviously, with COVID, but we do still have them there, and, you know, we're planning on moving forward all that next year as far as our fishing radios. But one part of your answer would be, traditionally that's where it's been put, you know, when I came into this, even you know, 10, 15 years ago. But we do consider an upland game and fish. We do have, you know, a good bit of hunting on the northern end of the county, and those officers, you know, get out and check for turkey bait, dove bait, and whatnot as well. And it will be utilized in some enforcement stuff as well.
One other question.
Okay.
Captain Paul, any issues or complaints on the law enforcement board member? What's his name, Nikki Maxey?
I had Ms. Maxey sent him offshore fishing today, so we wouldn't have to deal with it.
All right. We think he does a good job, just
Yes,
for the
sir.
record.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. I'll just interject. I really echo the chairman's comments about the monofilament lines.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, we have, I don't know how many turtle patrols out on all of our beaches, and that's one of the most prolific things that they pick up. And you know, and I know that gets around our turtles and our fish and destroys what we want to protect.
It really does.
I love seeing those at our boat landing, and they're very well used. So I got to thank our citizens. When they are there, you can always see somebody walk up and use it when they finish. So as many places as we need them, please let us know.
I will. I'll get on that today, and we'll try to get them.
Perfect.
I'll find some price and some stats on it, and then we'll try to get them at every landing.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Anybody got any other questions?
No, sir, I move for passage.
Under Mason's rules, no second is required. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir. We
Thank you
appreciate
all.
you being here with us today.
Thanks for your support.
Absolutely. You know, Shannon, just a comment about these facilities and the importance of them being at the boat landings. You know, one of the things that I think has been discussed over the years but never really acted on is we don't have any restroom facilities at many of the boat landings throughout the county.
We do not.
And I do know that I believe that Water Rec funds can be used for that, and I know that the county funds can be used for that, and I suspect PARD funds can be used for that. So it may be worthy of consideration. I know Mr. Robbins listening to that as well, but perhaps a coalition of the willing to help look at whether bathrooms ought to be built at certain Bass State. No, sir. Just making suggestions for brighter people than me, Mr. Rodman, to do that. Captain, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I think the next time was the shooting preserve. I'm prepared.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If
Yeah,
you'd like
that's
that.
you too.
So you want me to roll right into
Please,
it?
right into it.
So this is a shooting preserve request on some land off of secondary 33, which is River Road off of Highway 17 in northern Beaufort County. It will be a private preserve, and what the preserve does, it allows them to shoot longer than the state seasons, and there's not a limit on it. They're putting out their own quail. This is just a quail request. They'll put out their own quail. They manage their own harvest and keep records, and they send the records back into us. We send an officer out. This one has somehow slipped through the crack, but we're up on it now. It passed our inspection. There was a church that was close by. The church has not held any services since COVID started, and the owner of the preserve does not plan on hunting on Sunday mornings when or any time that the service may be going on. But that was the only concern. It's off the highway, so no issues on our end. after our inspection. And I think we included a map in the packet that we may have sent to y'all. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions, anybody on the request? Comments? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Thanks. No second required. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Captain, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
thank you again for everything you're doing for the folks in Beaufort County. We really appreciate what you and your guys are doing. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving into our boards and commissions appointments. I note that with regard to various appointments, including all of those that are being considered today, notice, I think that during COVID there may have been additional notice, but I know that notice was put out on May the 11th, seeking solicitations for the various boards, agencies, and commissions that we either appoint or recommend to the governor to appoint. And Ms. Maxey, I think will confirm that these represent all of the responses that we have received for those offices for which there are appointments or reappointments that are out there. So thank you very much for getting that together for us. Ladies and gentlemen, the first we have is the Broad Creek Public Service District. There are 2 vacancies, one as a result of a death, 2 as with regard to a relocated member, and we have only 2 applications that have been received. We have Mr. Dean Layton and Mr. Glenn Franklin. It is, if you all look on your summary sheet, there is a distinction as to when, because of COVID, these 2 seats would start. As noted, if nominated, Mr. Layton would be completing Mr. Dougal's 3-year term that began July 11, 2019, expiring July 11, 2022, so that Mr. Layton would be completing the partially unexpired term through July of next year. The next actually says the term expires July 11th of 2021. Is that correct, Ms. Maxey?
It is.
Okay. So can we appoint him to fill the unexpired term that expires July 11, 2021, and appoint him to a successive 3-year term after that? I mean, it seems silly that we're appointing somebody for 3 weeks. The postage probably won't even get to Columbia, the governor's office, by that time.
I will note that on our, I believe I can note that on our,
And if that's
vote.
the motion that you
Yes, sir.
make, that would be delightful. Okay?
would you like a motion, Mr.
Any
Chairman?
questions, comments? As you all know, the Broad Creek Public Service District conducts an internal referendum among their customers to provide us recommendations, and these 2 gentlemen actually attend the meetings now. They treat them as commissioners-elect, and they are the folks that got the largest number of votes at the 2020 referendum. And there's a letter from Carrie Griffin, who's counsel for Broad Creek Public Service District, in our packet, as well as the application. So, it'd be appropriate to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the 2 nominations and add the consecutive term following for Mr. Frankel, Mr. Glenn Frankel, for the Broad Creek Public Service District.
Thanks. No second required. Questions, comments? All those in favor of approval of both nominations
to be recommended to the governor, including the additional full 3-year term for Mr. Franklin. Please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Next is the Beaufort Jasper Higher Ed Commission. We have one vacancy, one vacancy as a result of a resignation, 3 seats that are open or to be open because of expired terms with willing individuals seeking reappointment. The 4-year term for the resignation began June 30, 2020, expires June 30, 2024. That was John McKenzie, or Bubba McKenzie, for those of us who've known Mr. McKenzie for a long time. He resigned, and Dr. Brenda C. Litchfield has applied for that position. Her resume is in there, along with I think some recommendation information for her. Otherwise, the other 3 are individuals we're aware of, know of, that have previously served and are seeking reappointments. Those being Jane Kaiser, Simon Frazier, and Larry Rowland, our local historian.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, comments, or motions?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the 4 applicants for the 4 positions available.
Comments, questions? All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. We have a resignation, April of 2020. Mr. Donald Manson. 1 application received from Mr. Rob McPhee. As you all will note in the package, apparently County Council attempted to nominate Mr. McPhee directly with the governor's office last fall, and was advised that that's not within the province of County Council to make that nomination. The law actually provides that County Council would make a recommendation to us of 3 persons who may be in turn recommended by the legislative delegation of Beaufort to the governor for appointment. There is only one recommendation that is before us, and as you all know, Mr. McPhee for many years was the with the county engineering department. So, with that, it would be appropriate. Any questions, comments, or motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move we accept Mr. McPhee's application and thank him for his continued service. He has moved around, and having him on the Water Authority will be an excellent addition to the board.
No seconds required. Questions, comments? All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next, Low Country Resort and Island Tourism Commission. Hello, Ms. Morrison. How are you today?
Hey, Peach.
Bill.
We have 3 vacancies and 3 applications. We have 1, somebody's no longer with the Hilton Head Chamber. We have an individual that retired. Excuse me, we do have 1 that is seeking a reappointment whose term expired June of 2019. We would be reappointing him to a term expiring in June of 2023. Appropriate information for all of the candidates was included in your packet, as well as the signed application. Any questions, comments, or motions with regard to Low Country Resort Island and Tourism Commission?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the slate of the 3 nominees and also note the wonderful service of Mr. Jack Reed and Ms. Jean Green Williamson previously on the board. We'll miss their service greatly, but have wonderful applicants this time as well. So move for passage.
All those questions or comments? All those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. South Island Public Service District Commission. We have three openings on the board. Mr. James Richardson, John Phelan, and Alan Jackson. Reappointed Mr. Richardson, Phelan, and Jackson will serve a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2021, which will expire July 1, 2024. Each of them are there today and have been appointed and served more than one term. However, they're up for reappointment in July. These three individuals with the three applications. So questions, comments, or
Chairman.
motions? Yes, sir.
Chairman, I'd like to request that we divide these out, divide the question on here for Richardson and Jackson, because Mr. Phelan is a relative of mine. I'd like to recuse myself on that matter. And surprisingly enough, he's very qualified. I mean, for a relative of mine to be qualified. I'm just saying, but I think it appropriate that I not vote in that for Mr. Phelan.
Mr. Kirkman, you want us to vote on the issue of qualification and the sense of relative?
Yeah, I guess. Well, I hope not, but I mean.
No, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
Mr. Chairman, does Mr. Phelan know that he's just potentially harmed his chances of passing?
Well, that's a family matter, man.
You gotta prove slander, right?
So at this point, it'd be appropriate for a motion with regard to Mr. Richardson and Mr. Jackson and their reappointment from July 1, 2021 to July 1, 2024.
I so move.
Questions, comments? All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Erickson, I understand you now have another motion with regard to the next nominee?
Yes, sir. I would move that we approve Mr. Phelan's appointment as well.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or recusals?
Recusal.
Thank you. Mr. Kurzman, all those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With one recusal to be noted on the form, Ms. Erickson. That
When
you're
I get
filling
to
out
the
right
form,
now.
I
got
will
it.
get
got
it.
it. Next is the Technical College of the Low Country Area Commission. We have one resignation due to a relocation. It's Mr. Bill Boodle. His term currently expires June 30, 2022. So this nominee is to serve the unexpired balance of the term until that point in time. We have two nominations before us. One is Mr. Richard K. Toomey and the other is Richard E. Ross. Information regarding both of those gentlemen are included along with the communication from the TCL Commission, as is its routine, recommending one of the two candidates for appointment to that board. Then the second applicant does not bear the recommendation of the TCL Commission, but does include a number of letters of recommendation from folks on Defusky Island where that individual lives. So, questions, comments about the two candidates and/or motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a comment and a motion. Both candidates are highly qualified, and it's a wonderful thing to have an option to have a choice. In my personal opinion, for this specific position, I find that Dr. Rick Toomey is the most specifically qualified for this board appointment. Given that our university and our technical college is working so hard on our medical training in our higher ed situations, and that is Mr. Toomey's background as former CEO of Beaufort Memorial Hospital and director of South Carolina DHEC. He is highly and unusually qualified to be on this position. So that would make a motion that we approve Mr. Toomey's nomination, but also thank our other applicant and hope that he will offer himself for another position or this one, should there be another opening.
Are these just countywide?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. No, sir, these are, they are 4 spots that are countywide.
Mr. Chairman, I should note also that Mr. Bill Boodle, who has resigned, was an exemplary member of the Technical College of the Low Country and has only resigned due to his relocation, which came to be near family as he and his wife are aging. And as a decorated military veteran, he was a very fine member of our community. And I know everybody hates to see that Bill is gone. He served this county in many, many capacities, and in fact, our region, so.
Thank you, Ms. Erickson. Mr. Grossman, to your point, while they're not geographic requirements, it's appropriate just to note in reviewing the applicants that from the 4 members from Beaufort County, we have 1 from Hilton Head, 1 from Bluffton, and Mr. Boodle was from the Beaufort area, as well as Mr. Boozer. So, but those aren't prescribed.
No, but I think at the same time, we try and keep it pretty fair throughout the county.
Well, we certainly have a large and diverse county, and
Yes.
communities are vastly different in the county, so that's appropriate to note. Questions, comments, and/or motion?
I made a motion.
You already made that?
I did.
Oh, good. Well, no seconds required. All those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No.
Okay.
None. Ayes have it. The last nominations, recommendations for governor appointments we have today are the Board of Voter Registration for Beaufort County. We have 1 vacancy. We have 3 expired terms by sitting members. And we have received 6 applications, 2 new applications. Let me make sure this is right as I'm reading this. 3 new applications, and 3 who are seeking reappointment. As you all know, this is a 9-person board that generally is geographically balanced. The statutes governing appointments do provide that at least 1 appointee must be a member of a majority political party, 1 appointee must be a member of the largest minority political appointee, and the appointments generally are scattered throughout the county. We have 1 vacancy, and that is the seat that was formerly held by Flo Rossi, who resigned in December. And then we have 3 members whose terms are expiring. Ms. Aileen Mitchell from the Bluffton area, Mr. Craig Pelly, who is from the Bluffton area, and Miss Jean Felix, who is from the Beaufort area. Those folks that are not up for reappointment at this time are from Hilton Head, Beaufort, and Beaufort of the remaining members. 6 applications: David Lucas, James Wedgeworth, Matthew Sweeney are the 3 new applications that are included with their information and signed application in the packages. Questions, comments? I will note Ms. Rossi was a resident of Hilton Head Island who resigned,
Mr. Chairman.
creating the vacancy.
If
Yes,
I may,
ma'am.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, first, I would like to thank the community for the interest in these positions. We did have to post these positions several times for these particular vacancies, but given, as Mr. Herperson said a moment ago, that we do our best to make sure our county is represented in a full and fair manner as often as we can, I would offer that we reappoint Ms. Alline Mitchell, Mr. Craig Pelly, and Ms. Jean Felix to serve in the next term in their respective categories. Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Pelly serve in the Bluffton area, and I believe there's only one other member of this group that serves in the Bluffton area. Ms. Felix is a Beaufort resident. In addition to that, I would recommend and make the motion that we approve Mr. James Wedgeworth's appointment to Ms. Rossi's spot, given the Hilton Head designation and his community work and activity moving forward, past and present.
Thank you, Ms. Erickson, for your comment. Actually, the only 2 members on the board from Bluffton are Mr. Pellier and Ms. Mitchell. Those are the only 2. All the rest are from
Stand correct. 2 of the
other parts
Yes, sir.
of the county. Each of those 3 individuals, if I'm correct, have completed only 1 term of office.
Yes, sir.
Let me make sure that's correct.
I believe it is.
And then, as you know, and as the delegation has discussed in the past, we do have some members that have served multiple terms that are not up for reappointment today, but that's certainly an issue we all need to be mindful of when we're considering appointments. Okay. Did you make a motion?
I did.
You know what? You're just so smooth about it, I didn't even realize it. But thank you.
I've learned from you. So the 3 reappointments and Mr. Wedgeworth to fill Ms. Rossi's vacant seat was my motion.
And he's Hilton Head.
He's Hilton Head, and she was Hilton Head.
Got it.
I
Okay.
believe that's correct.
Thank you. Representative Herb Kirschman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as you know, we've had trouble filling these, and we had the opportunity to read through a couple of these applications,
Yes, sir.
and I think we have some extremely qualified people for really for the first time ever.
We do.
I think that what we need to do is bear in mind that we have more opportunities right after the first of the year. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right after the first of the year to, and just.
Moving into 2022, we'll have a
Yeah,
couple
we
of
just hope that,
opportunities.
yeah, we
yes.
just hope that we can keep the interest up.
Perhaps we could keep these applications and ask those applicants if they would like to hold them over for those next
Yeah,
positions.
I think that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, you'll note well, all of these applications are relatively recent. Some are, certainly in the case of Mr. Wedgeworth, there was a prior application for the opening and no action was taken on that due to COVID and the delegation not having a meeting. So, but I do note that Mr. Kirschman, you are correct that, you know, fortunately, we've got interest. Surprisingly, the folks on Hilton Head, well, not surprisingly, but the folks on Hilton Head have done a better job finding and encouraging candidates to apply than it appears to have come from the Bluffton area at this point. As the applicants that we received, other than a reappointment, we received nobody from the Bluffton area. With that, any further questions or comments? If none, call the question. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And to any of those folks, if you're here, congratulations. I know that I see at least one of our applicants here, recent applicants, and then encourage you to continue. We've got other appointments coming up, and some of those vacancies are Hilton Head vacancies. So we appreciate your willingness to serve and be a part of the important work that this group does. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not know of any need for an executive session. Are there any questions or comments that need to be shared with the delegation or the public? If not, I appreciate you all's time and effort in being here. Look forward to, Tom, y'all are headed back to Columbia on Monday as well? Hopefully we'll all be there for a brief time and get that budget done, and then go back, I guess, on the 29th to deal with budget vetoes.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We are adjourned.